Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gaur Nityananda Ki Jai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Satarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.This Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So either Thursday or Friday was Gaur Purnima, depending on where you live. And, excuse me, we are going to talk about Lord Chaitanya to continue our absorption in meditation on MahaPrabhu. So this is exciting because MahaPrabhu is exciting. So I'm just trying to get set up here. Find a place for my poor leg to rest. Maybe, sort of. Hold on a second. Okay, so I want to begin by saying that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the first 17 shlokas, it lays down the whole foundation of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, why he came and who he was and so forth. So, if you want to get an understanding of MahaPrabhu, then read the first 17 verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That will give you a foundation. But I wanted to read one of those verses, which is quite famous, which unfortunately I never memorized. So I will have to read it. This is actually a verse by Swarup Damodar. And Swarup Damodar was particularly Mahaprabhu's companion in his last days in Puri. Swarup Damodar is actually Lalita. Gopi Lalita Saki, as far as I remember. And Swarup Damodar was helping Mahaprabhu in nourishing and cultivating feelings of separation from Krishna in the mood of Radha. And so he wrote this verse, Radha Krishna Pranaya Viriktya Ladini Shakti Asman Iktamanav Api Bhuvi Bhura Deha Bhedam Gatotan Chaitanyakyam Prakatam Aduna Tadvayam Charikyam Aptam. And the last verse is very important. The last line. Radha Bhava Duti Swalitam Nome Krishna Swarupam. So let me read the translation. I worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, enriched with the emotions and radiance of Srimati Radharani as the predominating and predominated moieties. Radha and Krishna are eternally one with separate individual identities. Now they have again united as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This inconceivable transformation of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency has arisen from the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. So, who is Lord Chaitanya? Well, Swarup Damodar describes here in the last line, Radha Bhava Duti. Bhava means emotion or love, and Duti means effulgence. So Mahaprabhu has stolen the bhav, the love, the feelings, the emotion, and the effulgence of Radharani. And come with that. Now, Krishna was telling Radha that I want to come to the material world, and I will be rolling in the ground in the dust, in ecstasy, in the ecstasy that you have, because Mahaprabhu came to taste that, and we'll describe that. And he said, I will be rolling in the dust. And then Radharani said, then I must cover your body with my golden form so that you'll be protected when you roll in the dust. So Radharani is golden, Mahaprabhu is golden. So here it's said that Mahaprabhu has stolen or taken, however you want to look at it, the mood, the bhav, and the effulgence of Radharani. So what is so interesting about the incarnation of Mahaprabhu is it gives us an insight into the nature or the mind or the heart of Krishna, which is, it's kind of interesting because in other religious traditions you don't really understand, we could say, the psychology of God, but here, in understanding Mahaprabhu, we're understanding his psychology. So what is the psychology of God? It is quite interesting because every once in a while I will get a letter and someone will tell me that something bad has happened and they become mad at Krishna for allowing it to happen. Or I will get a letter and just someone wants to understand what envy of Krishna is. And sometimes in those letters someone will say, well, why does he get to control everything and we don't? Or why is he large, infinite, unlimited, and we're very tiny and small, controlled, infinite control, infinite choice, infinite power? Doesn't seem fair. So you get these questions, which are manifestations of our envy, but this is how the questions come out. Well, why did he get that position and not me? Especially when we're suffering, then these kinds of questions come up. So this is what's so interesting about Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu, he's dancing with, Krishna's dancing with the gopis, and he can understand intellectually, because he knows everything, he can understand that what the gopis are feeling in their love, in their rasa, in their emotion, is greater than what I'm feeling. So he could understand that with his mind, but he couldn't experience it with his heart. And he wanted to experience that. And in a sense, he became jealous of the emotion that the gopis were experiencing. What is it that the gopis, especially Radha, what is it that Radha is experiencing? What is that love she has? What is that joy she has? What is that bhav and prem that she's experiencing? Because I don't experience that. She's experiencing something greater. And Mahaprabhu wanted to descend in order to experience what Radharani is experiencing. So, as I said, he could understand it, but he couldn't experience it unless he took on her mood, which is quite interesting. Like in the Gita, Krishna says, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhishani chabhutani. I know everything, past, present, and future. I know all living entities. Nakashtana. Me, no one knows me, but I know everyone. So Krishna knows that the devotee is experiencing, but he didn't have that experience. Isn't that interesting? That's an experience that Krishna didn't have. So now, I just want to go back to this point where a devotee is saying, well, why did Krishna get to be God? Why not me? Why does he control everything? Why does he allow these things to happen? It's not fair. I don't have control. And here we see that Krishna wants to take the position of his devotee. So Krishna actually is giving a higher position to his devotee. That the devotee is experiencing something that even I can't experience. So the position of the devotee is special, in that they can experience something even higher, a higher ecstasy, a higher pleasure, or something that they can experience that Krishna wants to experience that he can't experience. And he wants it. So don't ever think that being the servant is a low position or a compromised position. It's actually higher. The Krishna comes, Krishna wants to know what it is that Radha is experiencing. What is that love? What is that joy? What is that mood? So this is the internal reason that Mahaprabhu came. He was enamored by the love of the gopis, by the love of Radha. And he could see that that love was something special, something greater, a greater experience than even he could experience in his love for the gopis, and he wanted to experience that. So that was the internal reason. And then, as I said, Radharani said, I will cover your body, so when you roll in the dust, you won't harm your body, I will cover you in gold. So this verse we read, it said, in order for Mahaprabhu to experience Radharani's love, he had to steal her emotions and steal her effulgence. Radha bhava dhuti swalitam. So he stole her emotions and her effulgence. And embodied that. So, what's the understanding? Krishna is coming, but he's only Krishna internally. But externally, he's completely in the mood of a devotee. So, his position as Krishna is interesting because as Radha, even though he's Krishna, but he's taken the mood of Radha, and then he is searching after Krishna, because the highest form of love of Krishna is separation. And at the end of Mahaprabhu's life in Jagannath Puri, for the last 18 years, specifically the last 12, he very intensely went into the mood of searching for Krishna, feeling separation, even though he is Krishna. So he's feeling separation from himself in a sense, but he's totally in the mood of Radha. So externally he is Radha, externally feeling separation, externally a devotee. So that's why whenever he was referred to as Krishna or as Vishnu, he would put his hands over his ears, he would deny it, because not only was he teaching as a devotee, but internally that was not his mood. Internally his mood was Radha. So he came to experience that. That was the internal. But he had an external reason, which was it was time for the Yuga avatar. And so he came as the Yuga avatar to distribute the holy name. But in this Kali Yuga, which comes once in a day of Brahma, which is 4,300,000,000 years, Krishna comes. So every once in a day of Brahma, then Mahaprabhu comes in this form after Krishna comes. It is said 4,300,000,000 years is one day of Brahma, and Krishna comes once in a day of Brahma, but Brahma also has his night. So if he comes once in a day of Brahma, as far as I can understand, then it's once every 8,600,000,000. Either 4 billion or 8 million, it's rare. So Krishna comes once in a day of Brahma, but in every Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya comes, but he doesn't come in this mood, in this form, distributing love in the mood of the residents of Braja, specifically exhibiting love, teaching about love and separation, teaching about Raganuga Bhakti, teaching about Manjari Bhav, all these things he doesn't teach. He gives the chanting of the Hare Krishna and worship of Vishnu, and that chanting of Hare Krishna will not take one to Braj. Excuse me. It will not take one to Braj. But in one day of Brahma, then he comes in this form, which if you've heard me speak about this before, I've always stressed on the rarity of this incarnation, but also maybe more significantly the rarity of the fact that we are now the recipients of this mercy. And it's really important to understand that, because what happens for many devotees in their effort to be Krishna conscious, sometimes they either take Krishna consciousness for granted and give priority to material life, or they become lazy or distracted in some way. And so to just be aware of the rarity of this appearance of Mahaprabhu is very sobering and purifying, because when something is rare, even if we're not so determined, but because it's rare, then that becomes the inspiration. So let's say you had an opportunity to achieve something that you wanted to achieve. Excuse me. And it was going to be difficult, but it was a very rare opportunity. So because it's rare, you would be determined to do it, even though it was difficult, or even maybe you weren't so inspired, but the rarity of it would inspire you. This is so rare. No one else can achieve this. No one else can have this, but I can have this. I've been given this opportunity, so let me do it. So Mahaprabhu's coming, we have to understand clearly, he comes as Yuga avatar to give Vishnu Bhakti in every Kali Yuga, but once in a day of Brahma, which is once every 4,300,000,000 years, or 8,600,000,000, depending on the calculator you use, he comes as Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radha to give the holy name that's endowed with the potency to awaken within us love of Krishna in the mood of the residents of Braja through the path of what is called Raganuga Bhakti. That Raganuga Bhakti is not practiced when one is doing Vaidhi Bhakti in worship of Lord Vishnu. It's inappropriate for that, because worship of Lord Vishnu is done in awe and reverence. Raganuga Bhakti is meant to lead one more quickly to the path of spontaneous love in the mood of the resonance of Braja. So it's a practice that leads one. And Lord Chaitanya gave that through his followers. They taught this. It wasn't taught before. So revealing the superiority of the love of the residents of Braja, and giving up and demonstrating that in his life, and teaching the Goswamis in a way that they would teach it to us, to reveal this. This wasn't done before. So we're getting what Prabhupada said, the easiest process, but we're getting the highest thing. So we always have to remember what we're getting in this Kali Yuga from Lord Chaitanya is different than what you get from other Yuga avatars of Lord Chaitanya in other Kali Yugas. This is special. So we're getting something which Bhagavatam says, Chiradadattam nijagutavitam. Chirad means a long time. Chiradadattam means never given. Nija means hidden. Gupta. Now, Nija means his own. Gupta means hidden. And Vita means treasure. So, Chiradadattam nijagupta vitam swaprema. What's he giving? What's this treasure? Love for himself. Namamritam, and nectar of his name. Now, Chirad means a long time. Interestingly, in this verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the word Chirad is translated by Srila Prabhupada as never before. So 8 billion years is a long time, but 8 billion years is so long, you could say never before. Right? Just like if something happens and it's not within recorded history, even if it has happened, we don't know it, or it's so long, we would say it's never happened before. So for all intents and purposes, we can say, Chiradadattam nijagupta vitam. Mahaprabhu is giving a wealth that he's never given before, because that's what will inspire us to think, okay, Mahaprabhu is now coming and he's giving something. What's he giving? He's giving love of himself, love of Krishna. Swaprema namamritam. Atyudhara means he's giving, and love of his self and love of his holy name. And it's never been given before. So let's meditate on that. Now, it was Mahaprabhu's appearance day yesterday or day before, depending on where you were. Let's continue to appreciate the mercy of Mahaprabhu, and specifically appreciate our fortune to have that mercy. Now, as you know, one of my favorite pastimes is the pastime of the saving of Jagai and Madhai. And why this pastime is so special is because Mahaprabhu's mercy, he arranged that his mercy would fully manifest through Nityananda. So Mahaprabhu, due to some formality, was not engaging with common people. He was engaging with scholars. So his mercy, it appears, Nityananda was more merciful, because Mahaprabhu gave that position to Nityananda, that if you if you get Nityananda's mercy, then you get my mercy. So the example of Jagai and Madhai was, these are the lowest of the low of the low. And what's so wonderful about that is that the lowest of the low, all they had to do was accept the mercy, repent, and promise never again to commit sin, and then they were elevated to the highest stage of love of God. So what it demonstrates is two things. Number one, as we've talked about extensively, the only qualification for getting that mercy is to desire it. And number two, it doesn't matter who you were, what you did before, that mercy will elevate you to the highest position of love of Krishna. Now, what's interesting about MahaPrabhu is that he's teaching Braj Bhakti, but he appears in Navadvip. And so what's the difference between Navadvip and Vrindavan? Because Mahaprabhu is also teaching Braj Bhakti, but there's a difference. In Rasa Lila is closed. You have to be qualified, just like we know the gopis, some of the gopis who were not yet purified, they were sadhana siddha, they had become perfect, and now they were taking part in Krishna Lila, and when Krishna called with his flute, some of them were not yet pure enough to enter Ras Lila, and by divine arrangement of Yogamaya, their husbands wouldn't let them go. Not that their husbands didn't want them to go, but by Yogamaya's arrangement, because they weren't qualified, their husbands wouldn't let them go. So you have to be qualified. So it's a small group, or even if you say there are thousands of gopis, still it's a limited group. It's not for everyone to see. It's not for everyone to experience. It's not for everyone to have access to. But Navadvip is called Odarya. So what is Odarya? Odarya means magnanimous. And why is it magnanimous? It's magnanimous because those pastimes are now made available to everyone. Those leelas and that mood is now accessible. So Odarya means the same Braj Bhakti, but now it's distributed. It's given to everyone. So before it's very confidential, it's locked up. Even people don't even really know it. It's locked up in the Bhagavatam, but it's very special and not being distributed. And mostly people are interested in Vishnu Bhakti. And now you take the Leelas of Radha and Krishna, the intimate understandings, then it's distributed. That's called Odarya. So through the Goswamis, through the disciplic line that came after Mahaprabhu, and through his own life and his own kirtan, now these intimate Leelas and the ability to enter into those Leelas, the ability to develop Krishna consciousness, Ragatmika Bhakti, in the mood of the residents of Vraja, is now made available to everyone. So therefore it's said, in that sense, Navadvip Mayapur is higher because it allows you entrance into Vrindavan. So in other words, you get the mercy of Nityananda. That's like, now you get entrance. You through his mercy, now you have entrance. There's another interesting thing, I don't know if you've thought about this, which is so I think special about the Leelas of Mahaprabhu. In the Leelas of Krishna with the gopis, which are the highest Leelas, it is said, Ramya Kaschid Upasana Prajabadu Pagena Chalkalpita. The highest worship of Krishna that's ever conceived is by the gopis. But there's a problem. What's the problem? From external vision, there's a man, there's a woman. So when there's a man and a woman, what do we think about? We think in a mundane way. And so now we're trying to understand the transcendental nature of the Leela. But if you've ever seen some of these paintings of Radha and Krishna, sometimes they're a little sexual or maybe inappropriate for the vision of materialistic persons. So because we're dealing with male-female, there's this tendency to think in mundane terms, even possibly to become disturbed by it. In fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when devotees were reading through Bhagavatam or reading through Chaitanya Charitamrita, when they would come to parts which were very intimate between Radha and Krishna, they wouldn't discuss it. They would read through it, and he didn't allow them to delve into that. He didn't allow them to read books about these intimate leelas. It requires a very high qualification and advancement to understand it. But when Mahaprabhu comes, Mahaprabhu is Radha and Krishna. Mahaprabhu is allowing us to enter into those leelas, but there's no man and woman. There's only man. So there's no misconception. There's no disturbance. It actually makes it easier to enter into those leelas in that aspect, because here you have the manjaris and gopis appearing as Mahaprabhu's followers, and they are delineating on these pastimes and the understanding of conjugal love, but they're all men, and Mahaprabhu is a man. So that makes it easier. So that's another aspect of the Audarya nature of Mahaprabhu's leelas, in that they're more accessible, and so we become, through entering Navadvip, which is where Mahaprabhu is, from where he appeared, then we get qualification, or you could say we get the visa to Vrindavan. So that is the magnanimous nature. You take an unqualified person, you bring him to Mahaprabhu. Without qualification, Mahaprabhu gives something very high. That's the nature of Mahaprabhu's mercy. And we've talked about this, and just a little reminder, mercy doesn't seek out qualifications. It doesn't seek out justifications. Justice seeks out justification. It seeks out qualification. Is this just? Is this right according to the rule of the law? You must do this and must not do that. If you break the law, then you're punished. But mercy doesn't look at that. It doesn't look if you've broken the law or not. Mercy just seeks out to give its mercy to everyone. So that is the difference. Krishna says, give up all religions, surrender to me. Not many people were able to do that. And so Mahaprabhu doesn't look for qualifications, surrender, you have to surrender. No. Mahaprabhu gives Krishna consciousness to anyone and everyone, whether they're qualified or not. And what is the qualification? Thank you, Premananda Gaur. Hare Krishna. What is the qualification? You just want it. That's the example of Jagai and Madai. You just want it. That's all. That's the only qualification. You want it. You don't need any other qualification. So, Rupa Goswami said, Namo Mahabhandanaya. You're the most merciful incarnation ever. We all know that verse. Namo Mahabhandanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gotushena. We know that verse. We chant that verse when we offer prasadam, right? But you may not know that when Rupa Goswami quoted that verse, he was overcome in the realization of the mercy, the magnanimity of Mahaprabhu. He had become overwhelmed, ecstatic. And a lot of the prayers that we read, we may not realize this, but they're manifested by the devotees in very high moods of devotional service. Like Lord Chaitanya's Shishashtakam is manifest when Mahaprabhu was in ecstasy, that those words came out. So a lot of these prayers, obviously they're manifestations of the devotee's love, but they're often manifestations of emotional sentiments that are causing these prayers. So when Rupa Goswami recited that prayer, Namo Mahabhandanaya, you're like the incarnation. We've never seen an incarnation like this. He was actually overwhelmed in appreciation, in bhav, emotion of what was actually going on and what Mahaprabhu was giving. And so when we recite that prayer, we shouldn't take it for granted. Oh, you're the greatest of all incarnations. But we, like Rupa Goswami, should be a little dumbstruck and thinking that no incarnation of Krishna has ever completely overlooked all qualification and just given something that is so rare, so precious, that it's basically hidden, that so many scholars and religionists, even of the Vedic culture, don't even know what it is, don't have access to it, or even if they try to understand, they don't understand. Like scholars, academics, they have access to these books, but they don't understand it. And Mahaprabhu is giving that understanding. It's never been given before. What kind of mercy is that? That overlooks everything we've done. It overlooks all disqualification and says, here, take love of Krishna endowed with the mood of the gopis. What is that? And who is Mahaprabhu giving it to? He's giving it to you and me. And what is our qualification? What is our great qualification? Somehow or other, we took it. That's our only qualification. That's it. That's all. Somehow or other, we took it. That's the only qualification What's the qualification if somebody's giving out something? What is the qualification to get it? If someone says, freely, anyone who comes, here's $100,000 check, come and get it. What's your qualification? Get in the line, put your hand out, take the check to the bank. That's it. There is no other qualification than getting in line. So Mahaprabhu's mercy, it's the same. He's not looking for qualification. Whatever it is, you take it. So that's kind of the foundation of Mahaprabhu's Leela. So just looking at his life briefly, up till the age of 20, he wasn't exhibiting himself as a devotee. He was a scholar, and then he became a teacher, which is interesting. And then at the age of 20, there was a transformation. And we'll talk about this, but I just want to give a brief outline. So at 20, there was a transformation. He met his spiritual master, and then so-called became a devotee. And then at 24, he took sannyas, and then he traveled for 10 years, spreading Krishna consciousness. And then after 10 years, or it was 20, 24, well, maybe it was 6 years. 6 years he traveled. And then he got a message, which we'll discuss later, by a cryptic message, mystic message from Advaitacharya, who basically said, everyone's got love of God, so you can retire. So Mahaprabhu went to Jagannath Puri to then fulfill the reason he came, the internal reason. He had fulfilled the external reason as a yoga avatar to give love of Krishna to everyone in the mood of the residents of Braj. And now he's fulfilling his internal reason, which was to relish it. So he did that for the last 18 years of his life in Jagannath Puri, and specifically the last 12, it just wasn't seen anymore. It was in the association of Swarup Damodar, Ramananda Roy, who are Lalita and Vishaka. He was just relishing the mood of Radharani, intense feelings of separation. And separation is more intense than meeting, but there has to be meeting for there to be separation, right? So Mahaprabhu now is going fully into the mood of separation, because the most intense love you can get of Krishna is in feelings of separation, and that's what Radharani was experiencing to such a high degree that she'd almost die. And so Mahaprabhu experienced that separation. So let's go a little bit back now into Mahaprabhu's Leelas. And he was born under a neem tree, and that's why he was called Nimai, and the birth name was Vishrambar. Vishra means universe, and Vishrambar means maintainer of the universe. So that's an appropriate name. But he was given the nickname, I think, maybe by his grandfather. Because neem is purifying, and it's said that neem keeps everything evil away, and so they thought it was his grandmother or grandfather. They said, let's call him, who knows? Who knows who gave him that name? You can just write it there. If you know, because I forgot. Was it his grandfather or grandmother. Who gave him the name Nimai? Anyway, he was given the name Nimai because they thought, because the neem tree is protective, it keeps away ghosts and spirits. So if we give him the name Nimai, then he'll be protected. So, the verse, what's the verse that predicts Mahaprabhu's appearance? It's in the Bhagavatam, in the end of the Bhagavatam. Karabhajana Muni, Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam, Sangopangastra Parshadam. Jagai Sankirtanapaya, Yajantihi Sumedasa. Now, this is interesting because Krishna, Mahaprabhu, as we said, came as Yuga Avatar to give the holy name, and then he came for his own internal, maternal grandfather, Nilambar Chakravarti. Yeah, that's what I thought, Nilambar Chakravarti. So we're going to talk about Nilambar Chakravarti because something interesting happened. So in this verse, it says, Krishna Varnyam Tvisa Krishnam. Krishna Varnyam has two meanings. Krishna Varnyam Tvisa Krishnam. He's Krishna, but he's a-Krishna. Krishna Varnyam means he's in the Varna of Krishna, but Tvisa Krishna means he's not black. He's Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam, but he's not blackish. He's a-Krishna. A-Krishna. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam, with effulgence that's not black. So this predicts the golden avatar, but there's no golden in this verse. So how can we say this? How can we say? And what's more confusing is Prahlad Maharaj said, and it's known, that Triyuga, Krishna comes in 3 yugas. In this Kali Yuga, there's no, Shastra doesn't list any Yuga avatar. So how is, when Nilambar Chakravarti Thakur did the astrology for Mahaprabhu and predicted who he was, it was understood from Gargamuni's astrology that Krishna comes in 4 colors: white, red, or white, green, black, and gold, or bluish, right? So, so this gold was mentioned there, but it's not mentioned in this verse. It's just said it's not black. So that's the reference to the gold. And then Tri Yuga, Prahlad Maharaj said, Mahaprabhu is covered Chana avatar because the avatar is not expected to come in Kali Yuga. But Yuga avatar comes, it's only pastime avatar, Kalki, but not Yuga avatar. But Mahaprabhu comes as Yuga avatar, but he comes covered because he's not supposed to come, so he's called Chana, and it's not directly said he's going to be gold, so it's covered, but it's not black. And Gargamuni said no, but he comes as gold, and so it's kind of covered, mysterious. So, in any case, Mahaprabhu did not reveal his position as avatar. He didn't want people to know. And more specifically, as I said, he didn't reveal his position as Krishna, or even a devotee of Krishna, or have anything to do with Krishna. And he was simply absorbed in his early days in scholarship, just mundane logic, Sanskrit grammar, etc. And Navadvip was a place of learning. Navadvip is like Oxford, was like the Oxford of India, and that's where all the great scholars would go and study and debate and so forth. And scholars like to debate, and if you were defeated, you'd sign a paper, and then the person who defeated you becomes your guru, so to speak. So anyway, Mahaprabhu, he had these pastimes, and he was such a great scholar that as a young boy, around 12, he had his own school. And everybody loved him naturally, and like Krishna, he would perform pranks on Brahmins and like that. He had a lot of fun doing all those pranks and so forth. And all the devotees they were so attracted to him, but they were so frustrated with him because he was a mundane scholar. And they were trying to interest him in bhakti, but they couldn't. Of course, Advaitacharya understood, because Advaitacharya had prayed for Krishna. And when Krishna appeared, Advaitacharya had prayed, the Kali Yuga is so bad. Even in India at that time, believe it or not, it was really bad. And at least, it was bad. It wasn't bad with industrialized consumerism, but it was bad with selfishness, materialism, and religion used for materialism. So they just didn't have the accoutrements that we have to make our lives really messed up materially, that we can accumulate unlimitedly. They didn't have that, but they had the mentality of it, and they did their best. And religiously, it was a complete mess. It was simply demigod worship and so forth. So, all for material means. And so, Advaitacharya, he prayed, he worshipped Shalagram with Tulsi, he prayed that please come and save the world. And so he knew, because when Mahaprabhu appeared as little Nimai, within Advaita's heart, he knew it, he could feel it. He said that the incarnation has come. But it wasn't time. Mahaprabhu chose not to manifest. And so these were his pastimes where he manifested scholarship. And so all the devotees, they were so attracted to him. He's so beautiful, and he has so many good qualities, and he's so intelligent. If you just become a devotee, it'd be perfect. And Mahaprabhu would say, yeah, I will someday, don't worry. So for his own reasons, he engaged in scholarship, and then he defeated the greatest scholar, Keshava Kashmiri, and it was revealed to Keshava Kashmiri that it was actually God who defeated him, because nobody could defeat him. And Saraswati revealed that to him. Anyway, what changed Mahaprabhu in his own desire at around the age of 20, that was the time for him to fully manifest himself. So, his father died, and as is the custom, one would go and perform the ceremonies for their father. Where did they go? Who knows? Did they go to Katwa? Where did they go? I forgot. He went to Katwa to take sannyas. So where did they go? I'm forgetting. Where they go? Who knows? It's escaping my mind. Maybe it's Katwa. You go, you do pinda to serve your forefathers. So he went there. And who was there? Gaya, I'm sorry. He went to Katwa for sannyas. And Gaya, yeah. It's interesting, because I've been a devotee 48 years, sometimes I have to tell a story that I read 46 years ago. And there's a little fog in my brain now, so sometimes, Gaya's in Bihar, right? Is that correct? So Mahaprabhu went there and he met Ishwara Puri, who was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. And Madhavendra Puri, in our disciplic succession, he was where this Radha Bhav, conjugal love in the mood of Radha, that's where it manifests within him, through Ishwara Puri, and then now manifest through Mahaprabhu. He met him, he was changed. Mahaprabhu now came back to Navadvip, manifesting love of God. As you'll know later in CC, it is said that Ishwara Puri, Bihar, Gaya's in Bihar. Where's Katwa? Also Bihar? Narendra will tell us. Katwa is also Bihar. It's not that far from Navadvip. Mahaprabhu would swim across the Ganga, and then he would, or travel down the Ganga and get there, or both. So, Ishwara Puri gives him the holy name and tells him, you're not a great scholar, don't be proud. He's the greatest scholar in India. And he's now telling him, you're not a great scholar. And so Mahaprabhu accepted that. He said, my guru called me a fool. Isn't that a nice example? You are the greatest scholar. You've defeated the greatest scholars. Nobody can defeat you. You can establish arguments philosophically. You can defeat your own arguments, and then you can defeat the argument that you just made. And the greatest scholars can come, and you run circles around them. And your spiritual master says, you cannot understand Vedanta, so just chant Hare Krishna. And you say, okay, thank you. Is that an amazing example of a disciple of humility? Yeah, my guru is smart, but he doesn't know everything. Yeah, and here your guru tells you, you don't know anything. Yes, Guru Maharaj. Just chant Hare Krishna, you cannot understand Vedanta. Isn't that amazing? So he takes the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he exhibits Sattvika Bhav, 8 symptoms of ecstasy, actually more than 8 symptoms, because he's exhibiting it in prema, which is an intensified, not just bhava, it's an intensified. And more symptoms than you can exhibit in bhava. And then he comes back to his guru and says, I've gone crazy chanting this mantra. Am I doing something wrong? And his guru says, this guru was awed. It's just, this is amazing. You've got the result. We've never seen this before. We've heard about this, but now we're seeing it in you. This is amazing. So sometimes the guru honors the disciple. That you have gone beyond me. So we see that, Guru existentially is in a higher position, but internally the guru may see himself lower than the disciple. You see that. Like with Ramanuja Acharya. Ramanuja Acharya, his guru gave him a mantra and said, don't distribute it. This mantra will liberate the world. Don't distribute it. And if you do, you go to hell. And he distributed it. And this guru said, why did you distribute it? I said you'd go to hell. He said, well, you said it would liberate everybody, so if they're all liberated, I go to hell. What does it matter? At least they're liberated. And his guru said, you're better than me. So sometimes the guru sees the disciple is better. So now Mahaprabhu comes and says, I'm exhibiting all these symptoms, I must have gone mad. He said, no, you haven't gone mad. You've reached perfection. We haven't seen such perfection before. So now Mahaprabhu comes bad, completely intoxicated with love of God. And the people in Navadvip are thinking, something's wrong with him. He's gone crazy. And so it's recommended that he should take a bath in what's called Vishnu oil so that it would cool him down. They thought it's like too much pitta. And then Srinivasacharya comes and sees that and says, and they say, but Mahaprabhu has gone mad. And he said, I want some of that madness. He's diseased, he's crazy. He said, I want some of that craziness. So he began exhibiting love of God, and all the students were going crazy, so they went to Gangadas, who was Mahaprabhu's teacher, and he said, Nimai's gone crazy, he's teaching us, now he teaches grammar, and he says everything means Krishna. That's all Krishna. Every word of Sanskrit means Krishna, and all he can talk about is Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. That's all he teaches. He's not teaching like he used to teach, and he's crazy. So Gangadas goes to Mahaprabhu, don't do this, don't do that, this, that. And he says, yes, because he's humble. He said, yes, teacher, yes. But he can't contain himself. And so, these kirtans are going on at Srivas Sangha, and they're with these intimate associates, and they're experiencing ecstatic symptoms. So this all was kept very privately. So Mahaprabhu is privately engaged. It didn't go out on the streets. The Harinam Sankirtan movement didn't go out on the street yet. But when the Qazi had come and stopped their kirtan, then now we're going to take this out. Now we're going to make this big. So then that civil disobedience movement was really like the turning point in the Sankirtan movement. And this is how Mahaprabhu distributed love of Godhead solely through the holy name, Yuga Dharma. And it started there. Before that, he still kept private relishing. And so then what happened? There was a problem. People thought he's crazy, number one. And MahaPrabhu was now exhibiting the mood of Radharani. So one day, he was chanting, Gopi, 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 Gopi. And so some devotees come or some scholars come and say, why are you chanting Gopi? That's not going to help you. Chant Krishna, Krishna. And MahaPrabhu is in the mood of a Gopi. He said, Krishna is a debauchee. Why would I want to chant his name? Krishna is a debauchee. I don't want to chant his. Why would I want to chant his name? So like there are certain gopis, manjaris, they actually don't want to associate with Krishna. They want to serve Radha, and they are maid servants of Radha. That's their goal. And they experience all their connection with Krishna, they experience it through Radha, through her feelings. So he's in that mood. I don't want anything to do with Krishna. He leaves us, he cheats us, he, goes with other women, this, that. He's the debauchee. So MahaPrabhu was really, really disturbed by that. And in other ways, the scholars were disrespecting him. And you're not accepting him, not accepting what he was teaching. And he started to think, he said, I've come here to give Krishna prema, and people are arguing with me. People are telling me I should study this and not teach that, and I have the wrong understanding. How will they understand? I've come to give something, but nobody respects me, and so I can't give it to them. So then he thought, he's 24 now, and his wife is 14, believe it or not. And his mother is obviously not that old, if he's 24, because in India, you have children young. So maximum, she's mid-40s. Maybe maximum 50. Mid-40s to 50. Yeah, probably mid-40s. Anyway, young. Younger than me. Well, if you're 20, she's not young. But if you're me, she's young. So yeah. Sometimes I'm with young people and I go, do you know him? They go, yeah, I mean that older guy. And he's younger than me. So funny. Yeah, that older guy. Yeah. And I'm sitting here looking at somebody who's 50 going, yeah, that older guy over there. Because somehow or other I don't think I'm as old as I am. Anyway, so MahaPrabhu he's thinking, like, these scholars don't accept me. My students don't accept me. People are telling me, don't chant Gopi, chant Krishna. I'm teaching the real meaning of Bhagavatam, and they don't know it. So they don't respect me. And if they don't respect me, they're not going to hear from me. And the only way they're going to respect me, they just take me as one of their people in their village. How am I going to deliver them, and how will I deliver anyone else? I have to take sannyas. So he's 24, his wife's 14, his mother is still young, and he's going to give up everything to take sannyas. And he tells a few of his followers that this is what I'm going to do. They all don't know. But somehow or other, the night before he's going to leave to take sannyas, so many devotees show up at his house. And they have like a festival. And his mother, she knows, she understands. And he planned to leave about 3 a.m. His wife is sleeping, he gets up. Guess who was awake? His mother. She knew he was going to take sannyas. So, for all of you film directors and movie producers, or moviegoers, imagine this scene. The most beautiful, exquisite person who everyone is madly in love with, what to speak of her mother, 1,000,000 times more in love than anyone else, is now leaving the house to take sannyas, never again to come back. Amazing. The beauty of Mahaprabhu, the affection that she had for him, we can't understand that. You know, like when you have affection in this world, when somebody is beautiful, sometimes someone could be so beautiful that you would just cry to see their beauty. Could you imagine someone so beautiful, you see them and you just cry? Just like sometimes someone will do a musical performance and it's so good and it's so emotional, people cry. It's just like they can't. Why do they cry? Because they can't contain the emotion. It's so good, the emotional experience manifests physically, so they cry. So we have some experience of that, right? Like you hear somebody singing a song and it's like, wow. You know, it's just like people cry. Or people relate to the song like that. So if something is if someone's extraordinarily talented or extraordinarily intelligent or extraordinarily beautiful, extraordinary in anything, to the degree that Mahaprabhu was, could you imagine the intensity of the love that his mother had? We can't imagine. It's just like, it's heart-melting. It's just overwhelming. And now he's leaving his young mother. And his father had already died. And his wife is going to die in separation. Oh, what a scene. That scene, I think the whole audience would completely just faint, basically, if done well. And Mahaprabhu goes, swims across the Ganga, goes to Katwa. And in those days, the only kind of sannyas was Ekadanda, Mayavad sannyas. And now Mahaprabhu approaches Keshav-bharati, and Keshav-bharati is a Mayavad. And he says, that's the only place he could get sannyas. And he says, I want to take sannyas from you. Keshav-bharati says, I can't give you sannyas. You have a mother, you have a young wife. This is not proper. You should go home. He says, no, I want to take sannyas. All the people are saying, you can't do this, go back home, this is unjust, it's wrong. You have a young wife, mother, you have to take care of them, you can't leave them. He said, no, I want to take sannyas. He was insistent. Keshav-bharati said, go home. You get your mother's permission, and then I'll give you sannyas. So the Mahaprabhu starts going. And then Keshav-bharati thinks, he is so beautiful. He is so charming. He could charm anyone into saying yes to anything. He goes, what's the use of sending him back? He'll convince his mother. So he calls him back and said, never mind, you don't have to go. I already know you'll convince your mother. So he comes back and said, okay, so Mahaprabhu has this beautiful hair, right? So he's like beautiful. You know, in Vedic culture, you don't take sannyas when you're young. You take sannyas when you're old. So it's like you're old. You lived your life. You've enjoyed your life. Now you renounce it. So you shave your head. You're not attractive like a young beautiful boy. It's not a big thing. It's normal. It's natural. But here's this young beautiful boy and this beautiful hair, and everyone's. You can't shave his head. He calls the barber. Everyone's protesting. You can't shave his head. It was a wonderful movie this would make, right? And the barber is going into what kind of state is he going into? He's just going into a state of lamentation. He's, I can't do this. This is wrong. This is bad. Giving this 24-year-old boy sannyas, cutting his hair. I can't do this because once I cut his hair, it's like now it's going to happen. I can't do this. No, it's impossible. I can't do it. No, you must do it. You must do it. And he starts shaving, and after he's going crazy, and after half of the head is shaved, Mahaprabhu is dancing in ecstasy. He shaves his head. And he said, I'll never again shave another head. He was just completely overwhelmed with post-traumatic stress disorder. He could never shave another head again. Maybe this was one of the first cases of post-traumatic stress disorder by doing bhakti. he shaved his head. It was such a traumatic experience for him. You know, it's like he was enabling this to happen, that he vowed that I will never ever again shave the head. He took up another occupation. I'm not sure, he became an astrologer or something. He took up another occupation. He gave up his position as a barber. Isn't that interesting? He had post-traumatic stress disorder from shaving MahaPrabhu. So now we have a problem. Kesha Bharati is a Mayavadi, and MahaPrabhu has to take sannyas from a Mayavadi. That's not good. Premananda Gaur is saying he went there in Parikram with Jeb Thakur Swami to that place. Wow, it's intense, huh? Intense. So now he has to take sannyas. Kesha Bharati is a Mayavadi. So Mahaprabhu played a trick on him. And he said, my dear Kesha Bharati, is this the mantra you're going to give me for sannyas? And he gave him a Vaishnav mantra. And by Kesha Bharati hearing that mantra, actually Mahaprabhu initiated Kesha Bharati as a Vaishnava. Isn't that cool? So here you have a Mayavadi. Are you going to give me this mantra? You give him the mantra, and Kesha Bharati says, yes, that's the mantra I'm going to give you. I don't think that was the mantra he was going to give him. Now he's converted. Yes, that's the mantra I'm going to give you. And then he gives the mantra. Then he gets the Ekadanda, and Nityananda's there. I believe Nityananda was there. Nityananda, it's like you can't have Ekadanda. He breaks the Tridandi into 3 sticks because that's our tradition. It's actually, there's 4. 3 sticks represents body, mind, and soul. You surrender to Krishna, body, mind, and soul. And there's 1/4 stick is the jiva, tied together. So Nityananda breaks the stick in 3 pieces. The tradition of Tridandi Sannyas was there from the time of Ramanujacharya, and it was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who got the idea of Tridandi Sannyas from Ramanujacharya, because of that. But prior to that, people wouldn't take Tridandi Sannyas, they would take Babaji. And he didn't feel people were qualified for that. And sannyas was also used for preaching, so he got that from the Sri Sampradaya of Ramanujacharya. So now Mahaprabhu was taking sannyas, and he's not going to go back to Navadvip, but he's going to be based in Puri, and then he's going to travel. And every year the devotees will go for Rath Yatra and meet him there, and then he will travel, and eventually he went to Vrindavan. In his travels, Mahaprabhu met Rupa Goswami, and then later on met Sanatana Goswami. If you know the story of Rupa and Sanatan, Rupa and Sanatan somehow or other ended up as prime ministers of Bengal in the government of the Nawab Hussain Shah. So at that time, Navadvip was ruled by the Muslims. It was a Muslim place. And somehow they got them, they're born in Brahmin families, they got them to run the country, run the Bengal for them. And at some point, they wanted to join Mahaprabhu's movement, and they had to escape. So Rupa Goswami, I believe it was Rupa who just escaped, and Sanatan stayed back and told the Nawab that he was sick, and then the Nawab sent a doctor, and the doctor said he's not sick, and they found him just studying Bhagavatam. They were both just wanted to completely dedicate themselves to Mahaprabhu, and so the Nawab arrested him, and he had, through diplomacy, get free. But within these pastimes of leaving their work and traveling, Mahaprabhu met Rupa Goswami and later met Sanatana Goswami, and then he explained everything that Mahaprabhu came to give, which is this whole Radha Bhav, service in the mood of Radharani, service in the mood of the residents, Gopi Bhav, like all of this, he came to give this. Explain that to Rupa, and then later on to Sanatan. I think he spent 10 days with Rupa, and I think he spent a month with Sanatan. And so he didn't write books, but he instructed them to write books. And then everything he wanted to teach was taught through those books. Through the writings, the teachings of the Goswamis, whatever he wanted to teach was taught through them. He only gave us Shashastakam. You'd say, Prabhupada said he didn't write anything, only Shashastakam, but it was written down, it was spoken by him. So in that sense, you could say he didn't write anything. Of course, his instructions to Sanatana Rupa, they're written down, and then he instructed them to write books, so specifically like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which contains the essence and the whole science of rasa. That was, and then the other Goswamis, they all had their specific position to establish bhakti in different ways. So, so this is just a brief history of his life, but we go into it more. So then he traveled throughout India, and then for about 10 years, and then eventually settled for the last 18, if that 34, no, he settled the last 18 years of his life. So that means when he was 30, so it means he traveled for 6 years as a sannyasi. He traveled for 6 years, then settled in Puri, and then he got this note from Advaitacharya, and Advaitacharya said, "You're a madman. I'm a madman, and one madman is sending a note to another madman to tell you that the whole world has gone mad." And then what was the price of rice, which was once expensive, and now everyone has rice, and it was a cryptic message, something like that, and there's no need anymore to. And so, what did the message mean? And said, well, all the devotees were looking at the message. What does it mean? What does it mean? And I believe it was Sri Damodar who said, I think it means your mission is finished. The world is intoxicated with love of Krishna. The mission is finished. So Mahaprabhu took that, okay, now it's time to retire in Puri and go internally. So, as I said before, then he went deeply internally into feeling, which was the reason he came, the internal reason, to experience what Radharani's experiencing. And Radharani's highest experience is separation. So therefore, he was feeling separate. He was allowing himself, by his own divine arrangement, to be merged in separation. And so his devotees would nourish that by reading Bhagavatam, and other books and reciting other shlokas would nourish that mood. And Gadadhar Pandit, he was, when, as I said earlier, in that verse by Sri Damodar, Mahaprabhu has taken the luster and the emotion of Radha. So after he takes the luster and the emotion of Radha, what's left of Radha, that's Gadadhar Pandit. Without that luster, he's taken that luster, and then what's left of Radha is Gadadhar Pandit. And so Gadadhar Pandit, sometimes it's said, he's like Rukmini, because without the emotion of Radha and the luster of Radha, then you have Rukmini. Radha has a certain nature, where sometimes she's contrary. But Rukmini is not contrary. She will do whatever Krishna says, but sometimes Radha will be contrary to able to Leela. But Gadadhar, he helps, because he's Radha, or partially Radha, he helps Mahaprabhu further, because Mahaprabhu wants to experience separation. So this is like, of course, this is very high stuff, but somehow or other, Prabhupada has given this all to us, 1960s, I don't know, 69, I think Chaitanya, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya came out. So these things were explained there a little bit, very high things. 1970, Nectar of Devotion came out. So these are the gifts that MahaPrabhu gave us. So they're very high things. And now one could ask, well, this is like separation. How can you understand separation if you don't even have love yet? But still, this is the path we're following. We're meant to understand these things, and Prabhupada gave us these things very early on. Now, we're not meant to overindulge in them, or specifically make the mistake to think that we actually have Krishna consciousness on this very elevated level. But nevertheless, they're given to us. And so that's what's so interesting about Mahaprabhu's incarnation. It's just like it reveals the depth of love of God, the psychology of love of God through the feelings of separation that Mahaprabhu has exhibited. And what's so interesting about Mahaprabhu's Leelas is that the Bhagavatam, although it's a spotless Purana, and it is for the Rasika Vaishnavas, and it only talks about pure bhakti, but there's history, there's geography, there's so many things which are contextual, which are meant to help us. But in Mahaprabhu's pastimes, there's only one thing, the highest, and that's all there is. So he embodies the essence of the Bhagavatam. So it said that Chaitanya Charitamrita is the postgraduate study of Bhagavatam, because the essence of the Bhagavatam ultimately is the 10th canto, and the essence of the 10th canto is Gopi Bhav. And so Mahaprabhu is exhibiting Gopi Bhav, especially through distribution of the holy name and in those last years in Puri. So he's completely immersed in the essence of what the Bhagavatam is giving. His life is an example of the essence of the Bhagavatam. So it's condensed. So so how do we process all of that? Well, as I've said before, when Prabhupada gave us the Nectar of Devotion, Chirad Nijagupta Vitam, I don't know the verse number. It's Chirad, C-I-R-A-D, Chirad A-D-A-T-T Adatam, Nija Gupta Vitam. Yeah, so you can look it up on the database, Chirad. So how do we understand? As I said, when Nectar of Devotion came out, and we couldn't understand the later sections of Nectar of Devotion. This was all new, it was all Rasa Tattva stuff. And we asked Prabhupada, well, should we read it, or what do we do? And certainly nobody could explain it to us. We were all young devotees. When it came out, Nectar of Devotion, I had been a devotee 8 months. And the oldest devotee in ISKCON, at that point, would have been 4 years, couldn't have been more. Well, it was 1970. So, if someone came in 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 7. So the oldest devotee could have been 5 years. But the majority of devotees at that point had probably been maximum 2 years in the movement. 1 or 2 years. And so now Nectar of Devotion is coming out. And it's got everything about rasa that is just way over our heads. But Prabhupada gave it to us, and so we asked him, what do we do? And he said, read it. Because we thought maybe those later sections we shouldn't read until we're more advanced. He said, read it, and if you don't understand it, read it again and read it again. And so one of the things that I personally experienced is that it's okay sometimes to read something you don't understand solely because it enables you to realize that Krishna consciousness is very deep. It's very vast, very expansive, and there's so much that we can't yet understand. And it does two things, at least what it did to me, is number one, it humbles us. So we think, I know what love of God is, and I read something about the mood of the gopis, which I cannot understand, or I see Mahaprabhu's ecstasy and I can't understand it. And that humbles me. So yeah, I have a long way to go. And it shows the vastness and the greatness of Krishna consciousness, that it's so, it's unfathomable. It's just, no matter how much you understand, there's more. It's a deep science. And so you appreciate it. You appreciate Krishna consciousness by reading things that just, your head spins. You read this and you go, I can't understand the emotions, the feelings, and the rasa tattva, and rasa bhasa, and this doesn't work, and this mood doesn't go with that, and these feelings, yeah. And you understand that you don't understand, and that's good. It's good to know what you don't know. So I think that's why Prabhupada had us read it. And then the third point, or another point, is by reading it you become purified. So gradually you begin to understand a little. Something drops off. There's something called rasa, and there's something called primary rasas and secondary rasas, and they manifest in different ways. So something is wearing off, and then you hear it again, and something more wears off, and then you hear it again, something more wears off. The danger is when we're not on a level where we can understand it. The danger is to, one, think we understand it, number two, just to focus on it without qualification. Because the example is Lord Shiva, he could drink an ocean of poison, but we can't. So we always approach the intimate Leelas of Krishna with some respect, some reverence, that I'm not capable, I'm not qualified. So if we approach it in that way, always respectful at a distance, these are very high pastimes, then we're safe. One time, one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers was speaking to a group of devotees, and I was there, and he was answering some questions, and this godbrother was considered by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta as the godbrother who really understood, he understood what Bhaktisiddhanta came to teach. He understood it philosophically. There may have been many that Bhaktisiddhanta said understood, but he said this one understood it. So it was interesting what happened. A question was asked, and then he began talking about the gopis. And he went on. He was very absorbed. His eyes were closed, and gopis this, gopis that. And then after about 3 minutes, he stopped and apologized. It's kind of shocking. I said, why is he apologizing? And he said, I'm sorry that I went off talking about the gopis. I shouldn't have done that. In other words, he's saying, it's inappropriate. Rasika ki jai, Mayapur dham ki jai. So he said it was inappropriate for me to do that publicly, to discuss these things. He said, my mind is attracted to these things, but I should not present them publicly. So that was interesting. And that was obviously the mood of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, that these things, maybe in intimate circles with qualified people, are discussed more. So the caution is, if you're going to discuss it in depth, be qualified. If you're not qualified, you hear, but that's the damage is done is when that's all you want to hear and you're not qualified yet. And how do you know you're qualified? Yes, when you have no sex desire, then you can absorb yourself totally in hearing Radha and Krishna. Then you're qualified. So I think we had a question way back by Krishna Karshini. I just have to find it. I will say hello to all of you while I'm talking, and you say hello. I see that you're here, but I can't stop my train of thought to say hello. But as you show up on the chat, I definitely see your names. So, just so I acknowledge you. It is said the topmost kind of love of Krishna we can achieve by mercy of Lord Gauranga. I'm wondering why he is giving the best thing to the most fallen in Kali Yuga. I asked this question. Well, let me make a confession. So, you know who answered. After Prabhupada left, some devotees were going to Shira Maharaj to get some guidance. and because he was a dear godbrother, Srila Prabhupada. And then what was happening around 1982, a lot of devotees were starting, or gradually there was an exodus to leave ISKCON and work with Sridhar Maharaj, and it created a polemic, and so the GBC said don't go there. But prior to that it was not considered taboo, because really he was just giving Siddhanta and guiding devotees, and guiding many devotees. And so I was there at that time before it was taboo. I stayed there. And the question that Krishna Karshani asked, I asked. And this was 1982. And if you go on YouTube and can find, there are videos of Sridhar Maharaj speaking in 1982, and towards the middle or end of one of those videos, you will see Mahatma Das at the age of 32, a feisty young man, more feisty than I am now. And I asked that question on that video. And I can't find the video. I saw it about a year ago. It just came up, and I saw the video. It just came up on YouTube. I said, wait a minute, I was there. So I went through the whole thing, and there I was. And I was definitely feisty. And I asked the question, why would MahaPrabhu give something so high to people so low? And he gave a very simple answer, which is actually quite, it's common sense, but it also reveals the nature of Krishna. He said, if a rich man wants to give a lot of money to someone who doesn't deserve it, he'll do it. Who can stop him? Why would anyone, why? If that's what he wants to do, that's what he'll do. And he also said, if a man is rich, then when he gives charity, he's not going to give small amounts. I like that answer. So let's analyze that. Maybe we could end class with this analysis. Then we'll have class in MahaPrabhu tomorrow. So the first thing is, Krishna, we sometimes refer to Krishna's desire as his sweet will. As his sweet will means, basically, it's transcendental whimsy. Sweet will means he can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants. That's what sweet will means. So that's the nature of Krishna. He's, whimsical, transcendentally whimsical, so to speak. He does what he wants, whenever he wants, how he wants. So now, MahaPrabhu had decided, okay, I had come as Krishna, Sarvadharma Prityaja. That didn't work. People are not surrendering. So let's just give it to them. They don't have to qualify. Let's just give it to them. So that's what he did. He just gives it to them. So that's what his decision. So if he decides to do that, and he decides, okay, we're just going to open this floodgates. The storehouse of love of God was going to be plundered, and we're going to give it. If he decides to do that, he can do that. That's what he did. And then the other answer, well, he's wealthy, so what's he going to give? I mean, he has that wealth, and he can give it, so he just decided to give it. And what makes it so glorious is that it's not Satya Yuga, it's Kali Yuga. That he gives it in the age, he gives it in Kali Yuga. That's doesn't it make it more glorious? It does. So, if I go into Harlem and find the lowest guy on the street, just some drunkard on the street, and give him $1 million, that's whoa. I didn't even give the students in the university $1 million, shouldn't I give it to them because they are showing that they are deserving? But I give it to some drunkard on the street, and here's $1 million. Take this and make a better life. Wow. So, in a sense, it makes it more glorious to give something of value to such fallen people. And then when we develop Krishna consciousness, its full glory manifests. This is the glorious gift of MahaPrabhu. But when it manifests in us who were recipients, who were like the drunkard on the street, who now the drunkard has become a successful person, normal, clean, and cleaned up his act, so to speak. That becomes the glory of the person who gave him the money. So by us imbibing the mercy, developing Krishna consciousness, that glorifies Krishna. As Prabhupada said, it glorifies him also. You can see that our own purity glorifies our previous acharyas. It glorifies, if you become Krishna conscious, it's a direct glorification of Bhagavad Gita, because that's the book that made you Krishna conscious. It directly glorifies Bhagavatam, because that's the book that made you Krishna conscious. So our advancement in devotional service glorifies the previous acharyas, glorifies your guru, glorifies Prabhupada, glorifies the Gita, glorifies the whole process to the world. Because when people see you, they go, you're such an exalted person, you have such good qualities. How did you get them? Where did or if people know where you got them, said your process, your tradition, your scripture, your gurus are wonderful because you're wonderful. So that's the culmination of Mahaprabhu's mercy, is that we get it, we live it, and the greatest distribution of Krishna consciousness is to have it, because when you have it, you automatically distribute it to everyone. So that's the answer I was given in 1982, and I remember that answer because I really liked it. He said, if he wants to give it, you can't question why he gave it. He just, it's like at Krishna Karshani, somebody comes up to you and says, here's $1 million. You could spend the rest of your life wondering why he gave it, but I think you'll just come to the conclusion is that person is extremely merciful. That's the reason he gave it. So, why did Mahaprabhu give it? Because he's the most merciful Mahabandhanai avatar. He's endowed with the mood of Radha, and Radha is compassion. So God is male and female. Female is counterpart. And now he's manifesting the female side, so he manifests the compassion, fully manifests the compassionate side. And then Nityananda embodied that mercy. It goes all the way down to Jagan Madhai. It can't go any lower than Jagan Madhai. We found the most fallen people, we're given that mercy, and then they become the great devotees. So that they personify. So when Jagai and Madhai became lovers of God, that was one of the greatest glorifications of Mahaprabhu, wasn't it? So we're like Jagai and Madhai. If we can become lovers of Krishna, that's the greatest glorification of Prabhupada, of our guru, of our previous acharyas. So the whole process and tradition is glorified by us. And when we don't follow the process, when we don't live the way we're taught to live, then people look at that and say, I don't want anything to do with you because you're just, how can this be good? Look at you. You're angry, you're belligerent, you're attached to material things like everybody else. What's the use of your process? It doesn't. But if you're actually Krishna conscious, satisfied, happy, detached, kind, compassionate, loving, and so on, and people will see that. Oh, your process, it's wonderful because you're wonderful. So that's, in my estimation, the greatest thing we can do to make the world Krishna conscious is be it. That's the foundation, because it automatically comes from that. And you could say Krishna consciousness is wonderful, but if people don't see that you're wonderful, they're not going to believe it. Yeah. So Krishna Karshani is saying that being fallen isn't that bad because we can get Krishna consciousness. Actually, being fallen in Kali Yuga is probably the best position you could ever achieve. Because chiradadattam nijaguptavitam, what was never given before, is given now. So this is a good point to end on, because it's exactly the point we began on, which was to be steady and determined in your Krishna consciousness throughout your entire life, to be sufficiently detached in order to execute Krishna consciousness well, properly. I believe it is one essential ingredient will be to understand the unique fortune and the rarity of the fortune we have. So to be fallen in Kali Yuga is one of the most blessed positions to be in, if we take advantage of it. Madhyam 23, verse 1, is that correct? For the Chiradadattam Nijagupta Vitam verse? Yeah. Maybe we'll read that verse tomorrow. We'll read the purport, if there's a purport. So, we are all the most fortunate. We should always, every day, acknowledge that fortune, acknowledge the depth of that fortune, acknowledge. I don't know if we fully acknowledge the depth of that fortune, and of course, we all have heard that appreciation is a very important quality to develop. And so, what should we appreciate? One of the things that's so important for us to appreciate is Mahaprabhu's mercy, and how we, because we're born in Kali Yuga, because we're bad, we now get the best thing. It's like Donald Trump goes into the top security penitentiary in America, where it's all murderers and rapists and so forth. And he goes, free, you're all free. Open the door, go. Here, $100,000 for each of you, like that. And so your only qualification was that you committed a heinous crime, and that's why you got the mercy. So our qualification is we're still here in Kali Yuga. And yeah, appreciate your good fortune. By chanting the holy name, you can get love of Krishna in the mood of the residents of Braja. Just meditate on that. Meditate that you can get love of God in the mood of the residents of Braja, which is basically impossible to get. And meditate on the fact we have absolutely no adhikari, no qualification for that. We don't even have the qualification to understand it. By the mercy of our gurus, we're able to understand it. What to speak of get it? Just meditate on that. Every day appreciate that. Every day meditate on that. Let that be like your life force, your life inspiration. A lot of devotees, they ask me, because I've been a devotee since the early days of ISKCON, and from time to time devotees have difficulty. They'll ask me, how is it that you've been able to maintain yourself in Krishna consciousness all these years? And I think this is one of the reasons. It's like let's say your father, you've left your father, you've become a drunkard, he takes you back, builds you a home, rehabilitates you, gives you a good life, everything is great. And then someone says, how come you don't go back and become a drunkard on the street again? So you know the answer. So it's the same answer. How come you don't leave Krishna consciousness? My father's built me a mansion. He's given me love of the potential for love of God. He's given me everything. I don't even deserve it. I'm not qualified. I deserve to be left on the street. Why would I go back when I have this? So if we think that way, if we appreciate that every day, then our Krishna consciousness will be enhanced all the time. Look what I have. It's so rare. It's so special. And the other point is, you see so many devotees, and you may be one of them, that are totally dedicated to spreading Krishna consciousness. And they make so many sacrifices of personal comfort and convenience. They tolerate so much. They put up with so much that they wouldn't have to put up with if they weren't trying to spread Krishna consciousness. Why do they do that? Because of their appreciation. Because they have so much appreciation for what they've given, they feel naturally, spontaneously impelled to give it back. That's also, it becomes not only the source of our determination, it becomes the source of our giving Krishna consciousness. Look what I've been given. How can I not give this? This is so rare. It's so special. I'm so undeserving. I'm given something so deep. And all the books of the acharyas that are allowing me to enter into the understanding of Krishna consciousness, how much appreciation, how much indebtedness I have for them. When a Vaishnava helps you enter more deeply into Krishna consciousness, when he helps you understand something that you could never understand on your own, how indebted are you to them? And what do they want in exchange? They want you to follow what they've taught, and they want you to give it to others. That's where our fundamental inspiration comes. But if we don't appreciate that, then if we don't appreciate it, then Krishna consciousness is hard. I don't know. I don't like to chant. Maya's attractive. I can't just give up all this sense. All this whining excuses. It's like your father just built you a mansion, and you're complaining that you can't go back and live on the street. I don't understand. What are you talking about? That's how it should sound to us when you're thinking, oh, but it's so hard. I don't know, I have to give up so much, it's so difficult, I have to tolerate this, I have to do that. It should sound like a former drunk living in a mansion saying, I don't know, this mansion is just too nice, I don't know, I kind of like the street, I'm missing the dirt, I'm missing the cement, I used to sleep on the cement. Everyone's thinking, what are you talking about? It doesn't make sense. So, if we appreciate the gifts of MahaPrabhu, then that's our inspiration. And the other thing is, I was reading the pastimes of MahaPrabhu last night and this morning, the day before also. And I was reading this. I got up this morning about 3:30 or so. And I was reading, and so about 6 o'clock or 5:30, I was a little tired, and I was so mad at myself. I mean, I was tired, and because I'm trying to heal, I just allow myself to sleep, because I noticed that every morning I wake up, my knee feels a lot better, so that sleeping really helps. But I was so upset with myself. I said, you just lost a half hour. You could have been reading these leelas, these pastimes. Because I was getting so much pleasure by reading those pastimes. Because MahaPrabhu is so attractive, so beautiful. So if you appreciate, and then that appreciation allows you to get involved in absorption in hearing those pastimes, the pastimes are so much more attractive than anything in this world that naturally you'll just want to be Krishna conscious. That's what you'll want to do. And Maya comes and twinkles her eye, and it's like, you can't compare, because this is Satchit Ananda, and that's Asat Achit Nirananda. Yeah. In Krishna's transcendental Leela, you know what there is? There's Sat Chit Ananda, and that's all there is. And in Maya's Leelas, there appears to be some Sat Chit Ananda, but it's not eternal, it's not full of knowledge, and it's not blissful. There may be some bliss, but not a lot, and the bliss always has ramifications. So you can't compare it. So that's why I've been able to remain in Krishna consciousness, because when I look at the options look really bad. And when I look at what Krishna consciousness is, I just see this ocean of rasa and lila that I can swim in, and I see that there's so much benefit I can do for the world. Why would I do anything else? It doesn't make sense. Even if I'm illusioned in my mind to want to do something else, if I'm crazy enough to think that will make me happy, still, because I have this, why would I leave the house to go live on the street when I have a beautiful home? Even if I think there's something I miss about the street, my friends, and you won't do it. It just won't make sense. Okay? So, we'll have class tomorrow, same time, which means 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. And then we're going to talk more about MahaPrabhu, maybe try to go a little deeper into his wonderful leelas and relish that and appreciate. Maybe we'll gain greater appreciation. Okay? Is that all right? Thank you very much for listening. and allowing me to speak about Mahaprabhu, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, our Eastern Savior, the modern Eastern Savior, Mahaprabhu. Oh, and I just want to tell you, I'm excited to announce that I've written 13 chapters of my new book, and I'm finishing, which I think will be the last chapter. I've sent it to a godbrother to see if he thinks there needs to be another chapter. And I'm working on the last chapter, which is going to take the longest, because it's a history of materialism, which I think is very important for the book. But basically, the kind of rough draft of the book it's almost finished. I'm just going over some details now, working out. But the base, so that was ecstatic and a little difficult for me. I had to kind of block out every morning till about 12 or 1 or 2 o'clock. I just blocked the world out to do this. But I think it's going to be a valuable introductory book for people interested in spiritual life. Especially, I think it's going to be good for people who want spiritual life who don't know much about it. I think it'll be convincing for them. So, yeah, it's going to be good. And then you all get to translate it into Polish, Spanish, German, Chinese. It's hopefully going to be printed by the BBT. But even if they print it, I might print my own version for my personal use, as I think the BBT version will probably have to be edited. This is very personal. I'm writing it in the first person. My dear Lord, you've so kindly made approach to easy by your holy name, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction. So let's not be unfortunate. Let's be fortunate and develop an attraction. Let's, at least if we appreciate the holy name and appreciate Mahaprabhu's gift, then we can be fortunate. Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.